Okay everybody, welcome back. So today we're going to be taking a look at how to add some multi-projectiles, almost like a bullet hell game, into our project. And these are customizable, so you can decide exactly how many of them you want to have. So if I go in here, I can make 10 projectiles on a 180 degree spread. I can have 3 projectiles on a 60 degree spread. Oh, 60, not 6. So yeah, let's jump right in. Okay, welcome back. So when last we left off, we made this arrow system that works better with our projectiles. So there we go. Today we're going to be making a multi-projectile system here. So let's jump right in. Alright, so first and foremost what I want to do is start on the scripting stuff. So in my scripts, I'm going to go to my scriptable objects, my abilities, and I'm going to make a new C# script in here. I'm going to call this a multi-projectile ability. And then I'll open this up in Visual Studio, which I just happen to have open already. Now based on our generic ability here, or even our generic projectile, we have... Oh no, that's the projectile. That's not the ability. Based on our projectile ability script, there we go. So I'm going to grab a lot of this, and I'm just going to use this. So I'm going to copy back in here, because for the most part the logic is the same. So I can reuse a huge amount of my code. So if I go back to projectile ability, the other thing I want to grab is the create asset menu. And then I want this to inherit not from a mono behavior, but from a generic ability. What we want to do first here, since this is going to be a multi-shot projectile, is we want to know how many of the projectiles we want. And we also want to know the spread that they have from the first projectile to the last projectile. So first, to choose how many projectiles we want, we'll do a serialized field. We'll call this a private int number of projectiles. We'll make another serialized field. This one's going to be a float instead though, for the angle spread. We'll call it projectile spread. Then a lot of this we can keep exactly as it is. We just have to change a few small things. So first, we want to know more than just the facing rotation. What we also want to know, and I'll see if I can cut to a little GIF here to show you what's going on, is we want to know the direction the player's facing, and then we want to take half of the ankle spread, and we're going to add that to the player's facing direction. That's going to be where the first projectile gets created. Then we need to know how many increases there are after that very first one. And the number of increases is the number of projectiles minus 1. So that'll tell us how much we need to increase the angle by every time. So knowing those two things, we know where to start generating projectiles and where to stop generating projectiles, and then we can pass in through that setup method that we made last time exactly what we want their velocity to be. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a start rotation. So I'm going to call this float start rotation is equal to the player's facing rotation plus the angle spread, or projectile spread, divided by 2. Let's make that a float just in case. And then we also want to make an angle increase. So I'm going to call this float angle increase is equal to the start rotate. No, it's not the start rotation, it's the projectile spread divided by the number of projectiles minus 1. And number of projectiles in this case needs to be cast as a float. And we'll make that one a float as well. Yeah, okay. Then, instead of just creating one like this, we're going to create them inside of a for loop. So since we're making more than one, we're going to go for int I is 0, I is less than number of projectiles I++, and then inside this loop is where we're going to put all of this code. It could help if there we go. All right. Helps if I know where keys are on my keyboard. So what we want to do here is we're going to use this angle increase. And we're going to start at the start rotation, and we're going to increase our start rotation by the angle increase times I. And I'm going to do this by taking a little temporary float. So float temp. I'm going to call this maybe temp float. We'll call it temp rotation. Is equal to the start rotation plus the angle increase times I. So when we start with 0, there won't be any angle increase. Then instead of using the facing rotation here, we're going to use our temp rotation. So I'm just going to grab that, copy this, and I'm going to paste it right there. Uh-oh. Oh, I didn't double click, I guess. There we go. And then instead of using our facing direction, a little bit of trig here. We want to know the x and y components of that temporary rotation. So this is going to be a new vector 2. And again, if you ever told your math teacher you wouldn't use trigonometry, you were a darn fool. So what we want to do is we want to find the sine of the temp rotation. Temp rotation is in degrees though, and sine in unity requires a radian measure. So we're going to do math f dot sine of temp rotation times math f rad to degrees. And that's for the x value. And for the y, oh no, sorry, that's the y value. The x value is cosine. So for the x value, that's going to be a new vector 2 math f dot cosine of temp rot times math f dot rad to degree. Okay, math f dot rad 2 degrees. Okay, so what am I missing here? I think I'm missing I either have too many parentheses or not enough. Yep, not enough. I need one more. Okay, so let's check this. So let me make this a little more readable. Oh, this shouldn't be a vector 2. Mr. Tiaft. That's why I had everything all messed up. I copied too much. All right, so we're going to set up our projectile to have a velocity that has an x thingy thing, an x portion. I've lost my words. Component, an x component of the cosine of the, this should be degree 2 rad instead of rad 2 degree. There we go. Same thing with this one. This should be degree 2 rad because we're going from degree measures up here to radian measures down here. Okay, so anyway, we're setting up our velocity to have a new vector 2 of, with the x component being the cosine of the temporary rotation, and the y component being the sine of the temporary rotation. So, all right, I think we're good. Let's save this puppy. Get back into Unity here. And, oh, no, other stuff I gotta change first. So, in the Create Asset menu, I want to make sure this is different from projectile. So this is going to be a multi-projectile ability. And I guess I could have just started with this one, now that I'm thinking about it. Because I could just tell it that there's only one, and then the code would work the same. Yeah, you learned something fun today, hopefully. So back in my player's abilities, I'm going to create scriptable objects, abilities, multi-projectile ability, and I'm going to call this one, I don't know, I'll call it bouncy balls. Because you could add like a physics on this to make it bounce around. I'm going to give this a magic cost of 0. I'm going to give it a duration of 0.3 seconds. The player magic is this one. The magic notification is this one. For the projectile, in my prefabs player... Oh, did I go over this part on here yet? I don't think I went over this part on here. So let me delete this prefab and then I'll just make one right quick. So this is the second time I recorded this one. So if I go to my art and I go to my RPG items, I'm just gonna grab like a bouncy ball. I thought it was kind of cute. And we'll call this bouncy ball. And I'm gonna make this have a few different things. So we're gonna add a rigid body 2D with a gravity scale of 0. We're also gonna add a circle collider. And for funsies, I'm gonna leave this not a trigger just to show you what. No, I'll make it a trigger. I'll make it a trigger. And then I could add all the other stuff as well. The damage on contact, damage over time. So let's do damage on contact against the enemy. And the amount is 1. And then we'll do destroy over time. And we'll have these last 1 second. You can make them like a shotgun blast and make it like super short. Then if we get to our player ability, bouncy ball. Oh, I need to add this to my prefabs. I'm going to put it in my player folder. And my abilities, bouncy ball, player, bouncy ball. And you can make this anything. Number of projectiles, let's go 5, and let's make the spread 80 degrees. That's going to be a huge number of them. I'm going to delete that from the scene. And let's go to our player and movement. Let's make our current ability this one, bouncy ball. All right, so okay, interesting. I wonder what's happening there. Oh, did I forget to give it a speed? I think I might have forgot to give it a speed. I forgot to give it the projectile too, so that's why it's not moving. Generic projectile. That's what makes the magic happen. So we'll add our rigid body, and I'll give it a speed of, say, 15. All right, there we go. Now, oh, okay, it's almost right. So I'm going left and it's shooting down. So what did I do wrong here? Let's take a look. We've got our facing rotation. Our starting rotation is the facing rotation plus projectile spread divided by 2. Okay, our angle increase is the projectile spread divided by the number of projectiles minus 1. Okay. Temporary rotation is start rotation plus angle increase. I'm pretty sure. Okay, I'm gonna add a few debug statements here because I had this working before the first time I recorded this video. So we're gonna do debug.log. Facing rotation is. I'm gonna fast forward through this part. Okay, I totally didn't need to do that because I realized exactly what I did. My start rotation should be subtracting the angle increase because of the way that angles work in Unity. So let me save that. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the issue. Let's go back into Unity here as soon as it lets me. Should be able to compile. And let's try this out. There we go. So, sweet. It's almost like a bullet hell game now. Let's actually do one more thing here to these projectiles. Let's make sure that they're always above everything. So in their sprite renderer, I'm going to move them from default to notification, which puts them above everything else. I could just put them on Y sort and then, yeah, let's just put them on Y sort. And I want these sorted from, yeah, from their center. So let's go back and try this out. It's kind of weird because it looks like the pot's always on top of them because they flip over to be on top of the pot at a weird time. So maybe it would have been better if I had left them above everything always. All right, so one more thing I want to show you guys. So if you did want to make these bouncy balls, here's what you can do. You can go to your circle collider and make this not a trigger anymore. And you're going to make what's called a material. So in my prefabs, I'm going to make a new folder for materials. And this isn't a regular material. This is a physics material 2D. So there's only two things that Unity, so go to right click, go to create, and then go to physics material 2D. There's really only two things that Unity cares about as far as physics go. I'm going to call this material bouncy. That's friction and bounciness. I'm going to put the friction really low and the bounciness super high. So if I save this now and go back, because these are no longer triggers, they're going to interact with the world, which means that if they touch something, all right, even each other, because they have solid colliders. I don't know. Some of you might want something like this. Who knows? I'm going to set that. Oh, no, I forgot to put the bouncy on it. Mr. Taft. So let's go to my prefabs again. Player, bouncy ball, and then I want to grab my materials, and I want to put bouncy on this. Right there. There we go. So that'll make them bounce now. I was wondering why they weren't bouncing. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to put them on, let's open the prefab here. I'm going to put them on a different layer. So I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to call this projectile. And then if I want them not to interact with each other, which I don't, I'm going to make sure that they're on that projectile layer. I can go to Edit, Project Settings, and I want to edit Physics 2D. And you have this little array of whether or not things can interact with each other. So I'm going to make it so that the projectiles don't interact with projectiles. And there we go. If I go back here, let's see what our bouncy projectiles look like now. That's kind of a lot of fun. I'm going to make them not interact with the player either, and then I'm going to give them a nice long lifetime, and we'll see how that goes. When you find things like this that you think might be fun, it's important to kind of follow them to see if they take you anywhere that maybe you find something interesting with. So I'm going to make another layer for the player. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm doing this in the player here. There we go. Change the children. Okay, and do I have any overrides? I'm going to apply that override just in case. So now let's see how it is now that they're not going to interfere with the player. No, they still kind of do, but that's okay. What happens if I give them a super long... I know I said I was done, and it seems like I'm done with this video. It's just, this is kind of fun to mess around with. Destroy over time, I'm going to give them like a 3-second lifetime. That was a lot of fun. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, you can follow me, or you can ask in the description down below. You can follow me on Twitter, join my Discord. Tons of cool people in the Discord. I have a video I put up recently on my Patreon about pushing around pots, which is a much requested item. So if you want to know how to do that, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month and be able to see how to do that pot thing. So thanks very much. Have yourselves a great day.